The first thing, I want to look at these numbers that we were given. We have the number of new claims filed, and we also have this percentage here, the percent of eligible claims paid. What we don't have is how many eligible claims is that? What is that number?
So the total number of eligible claims is around 560,000, and we have paid to date 91% of those claims.
Whenever we say 91% of those claims, though, on the very next page, we're talking about some of the things that have yet to be determined as to whether or not claims are eligible. And in the context of having spoken with my constituents, many of those claims are still in limbo. So how do we know if a claim is eligible or if it's not eligible if they have yet to be adjudicated in the system? So I think that's an issue as well. We can't really say that 91% of eligible claims have been resolved if we don't know if they're eligible.
No, that's a fair question. I think maybe the better way to state that is, to clarify your question, it's a valid one, is that the balance of that 91% still there is a determination that has to be made on their eligibility. I think the nomenclature there has to do with, has the time passed for when they could be paid? And so that's, a technical statement, yes, but the balance of those claims, yes, still do have issues that have to be resolved. If that makes sense.
Yes, thank you, sir. And my second question, and at a future date, we're not going to have time today, but I do think that we need to come back to the security breach issue because that was briefly alluded to earlier. That needs to be discussed at length before we endeavor any type of reform with the unemployment system and look at new systems that may work better in the future. But that said, at the beginning of June, 675 employees were laid off that were previously hired to field unemployment claims. And I know that you have mentioned having a personnel issue, but knowing that we're going to continue having these issues moving forward, I understand that there's a little bit of lapse in the ability to train them adequately to handle these claims, but I would think that starting that process and at least retaining some of those folks and training them for future unemployment claims would be a little bit better of an option. Thoughts on that, please?
Sure. So what you're referring to is for the Tier 1 call center. So that was when someone called the call center and they were able to speak to someone, the Tier 1 call center was there to essentially triage initial calls. And we chose at the end of May, beginning of June to not renew all of those contracts. There were limitations on within those contracts about what those individuals could do other than take those initial calls. We did move a significant number of contractors up to have additional training and to go on Tier 2 or to do more detailed work. But that specific downsize, if you will, was related to the Tier 1 call center. And you're right, we need more staff that can handle the more complicated issues. And that's what Secretary Roberts is referencing by bringing in essentially more specialized vendors that can assist with the more detailed and complicated issues.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, I know we have Dorsey Ridley is online here. And Dorsey, I've got a question for you. Help me understand why the governor's office did not bother to give the unemployment folks a seat at the table while we're shutting down this state. We have people now that are at greater risk of not being able to feed their kids and losing everything they have than they are of the COVID, and we did not even bother to consider that when all these decisions were made. Dorsey, can you help answer that?
So if it has to be a
Okay, we can't hear you.
Hello.
Okay, that's better.
I have been monitoring a different meeting right this minute, Mr. Chairman, and I really have not been monitoring this for now. May I get back to you with you and answer that?
Yeah, and we have members here, that is a fairly simple question, and these things had to be discussed through the course of the last few months, and I just don't understand how this was missed, and I think a lot of folks in this room right now agree with that. People are not able to feed their kids, and we didn't even bother to consider that at the beginning of the time we were shutting down our state.
Mr. Chairman, I don't agree with that. I think we've always thought about people. I think that's the reason for our current administration that we do look for and take care of people. But this is a federal program that we have to administer. Now, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to get back with you and the committee and at a future date. And I appreciate you allowing me to monitor your meeting today. Thank you.